The evening was quiet in that lazy, almost boring way I had grown used to. The dishwasher hummed. The TV murmured through the living room walls. I folded laundry on the couch the same way I always did. Nothing felt special. Nothing felt wrong. Just normal. Daniel stepped out of the hallway, adjusting his tie, still half-dressed from work. "You see my cufflinks anywhere?" he asked, opening a drawer without even looking at me. "They're on your nightstand," I said. "Where you always leave them, right?" He moved back down the hall, muttering, "Long day. Everything's a mess." I didn't answer. We'd had this exact exchange so many times that it barely meant anything now. I just folded another shirt, trying not to think about how quiet our marriage had become. My phone buzzed beside me. I almost ignored it. Then I noticed it wasn't a number I recognized. No name, no preview. Just a notification asking me to unlock the phone. Something about that felt off. I wiped my hands and opened it. A single image filled the screen. Daniel, standing next to a woman I had never seen. And two grown kids who looked old enough to vote, maybe even marry. Daniel had his hand on the boy's shoulder, and he was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. A caption said under the photo, "Ask him who they are." My breath caught. For a second, the room tilted, like the air had been punched out of it. "What now?" Daniel shouted from the bedroom. "You moved the cufflinks again." I stared at the picture so long my eyes burned. The woman, with sandy hair pulled back. The boy, broad shoulders, maybe late 20s. The girl, younger, early 20s, looking annoyed, like she wanted to be anywhere else. My voice barely worked. "Daniel, where did you say you were today?" "What?" His tone sharpened. "At work? Like normal." I swallowed hard. "Did you go anywhere else?" "Why would I?" He stepped back into the room. "What's with the weird questions?" I locked my phone and set it face down on the couch. "Forget it." "Seriously, Mara, what's your deal tonight?" "Nothing. I'm just tired." He rolled his eyes. "You're always tired. And you're always irritated," I said quietly. He let out a dry laugh. "Here we go again." I didn't continue. I didn't trust my voice, not with the photo still burning into my mind. He grabbed his keys. "I'm going to pick up dinner. Maybe by the time I'm back, you'll be less weird." The door slammed behind him. I sat frozen for a long moment. Then I unlocked my phone again. I zoomed in on the picture. Daniel's arm around the woman's waist. The casual closeness. The familiarity. The ease. I whispered to myself, this can't be real. But it was. I replayed every detail. The background looked like a small-town shopping center. A cafe sign behind them. A flower shop to the left. A bright sky daytime. It wasn't edited, not a Photoshop trick. The shadows matched. Daniel's posture matched the way he always stood in photos. I felt heat rise in my chest, panic, mixed with disbelief. I've replayed his schedule from the last few weeks. The late meetings, the office dinners, the sudden business retreats he barely explained. Every time I asked for details, he brushed me off. My hands shook as I clicked the number that sent the message. No name, no photo, no history. I called anyway. It rang once, twice, then went straight to voicemail. An empty mailbox. No greeting. I tried again. Same thing. I sat back, breathing shallow. I didn't know whether to cry, scream, or throw the phone across the room. Everything I thought I understood about my marriage suddenly cracked. The front door opened again. Daniel stepped inside with takeout bags. They were out of the pasta, so I grabbed. He paused. "Why do you look strange?" I forced my expression still. "I told you. I'm tired." "You look pale." "I'm fine." He hesitated, then shrugged. "Whatever." He set the bags on the counter. "I'm starving." I stood up slowly, gripping my phone, and walked into the kitchen. The smell of fried food filled the space. Daniel opened a container and started eating with his fingers, like he always did when he thought no one cared how he behaved. "You're eating before plates." I asked, "Why not?" He said, mouthful, "It's just us. It's just us." The words hit a new nerve. I watched him stuff another bite into his mouth, completely unaware that the version of him I had lived beside for 12 years might not be the whole version at all. He lowered the food. What? Stop staring at me like that. I wasn't. You were? I'm thinking, I can tell. You get that look. Like you want to ask something but don't want to hear the answer. He smirked. So, which is it tonight? I gripped the counter. Nothing, I said again. It's really nothing. He scoffed. You're dramatic when you get moody. It's exhausting. And just like that, the conversation was over. He grabbed his food, walked into the living room, and turned on some loud sports show like everything was perfectly normal. I stayed in the kitchen, letting the quiet settle around me. My mind spun. If that woman isn't a stranger, if those kids aren't just kids, if that message wasn't a mistake, I kept seeing the picture. The closeness, the ease, the way Daniel smiled, not forced, not performative, genuine. He didn't smile like that with me anymore. Maybe he hadn't in a long time. I exhaled slowly and whispered, I need to think. Daniel shouted from the living room, Are you coming to eat or what? In a minute. I opened my phone again. The unknown number sat there like a threat. I scrolled through photos of Daniel on my phone. Old ones, vacations, anniversaries. I compared them to the picture I'd been sent. His smile was brighter in the message photo. His shoulders relaxed. His eyes lighter. He looked like a man who wasn't pretending. I sat down at the table before my knees gave out. A tremor ran through me. Not fear. Not yet. Just knowing. Knowing something that I couldn't unknow. I replayed the caption again. Ask him who they are. Whoever sent it didn't want confusion. They wanted confrontation. But something in me hardened. If whatever was going on had been hidden long enough for kids to grow into adults, confronting him too soon would only give him time to erase everything. I wasn't going to warn him. I was going to watch. He yelled again from the living room. Mara, food's getting cold. My voice stayed steady. I'll heat it up. He cursed under his breath. Unbelievable. I didn't flinch. Something in me had already changed. I stood, grabbed my phone, and walked quietly down the hall into the bedroom. I closed the door behind me. The picture glowed on the screen once more. Daniel, the woman, the two kids, for lives that touched his in a way I never knew existed. I sat on the bed staring at it in the dim light. I don't know who you are, I whispered, but I'm going to find out. I traced the edges of the photo, memorizing every detail. The woman's tired smile. The boy's cautious stance. The girl's arms crossed like she was done pretending. Daniel's expression open, easy, proud. Proud. I felt something settle inside me. Not panic. Not denial. Something sharper. A decision. I wasn't going to confront him tonight, or tomorrow, or even next week. I would wait, watch, collect, and when I had the truth, I'd decide what to do with it. I looked at my phone one more time and whispered the question that wouldn't leave me. Who sent this to me? And why now? The house felt quieter the week after the photo. I started tracking him the way you track a weather pattern, small signs consistent enough to predict the storm. You left your wallet in the garage again, I said, peeking around the door as he drove away. I did. He shuffled through his coat. I must have been distracted. You're distracted a lot. You sound petty. He laughed, but it was thin. I'm busy, Mara. Meetings, calls. You know how it is. Do you really? I watched him, not trusting my voice. What time did you get home last night? Late. He avoided my eyes. You know, work. We had a client dinner. Which client? He hesitated. Thompson. The firm on 5th. Iden Press. I started keeping receipts on the counter, his coffee cups, parking slips, the odd takeout bag, anything with I learned to read the little things. You keeping a receipt museum? He joked the first day I spread them out. It's important to me, I said, and I meant it. You're making a thing out of nothing, am I? I pointed to a gas card charge at 2 a.m. What was this? Oh, that's work trip. He reached for his phone like it might prove him. You don't want to know. Yes, I do. My voice stayed steady. Because I remember your work trip 2 weeks ago. You said you were in the city, but your card shows you drove north. A long way north. He swallowed. Road trip with Owen. We drove up to clear some papers. Owen. I held the name out like a test. He needed an extra hand, he said. Long night. It happens. I started watching Owen too, in the small ways. His LinkedIn posts, the photos where Daniel appeared in the background, the casual way he'd mention a meeting at a place Daniel never named. Daniel, you know Owen? I asked one morning when I bumped into him at the grocery. Yeah, he said, pushing a cart. Owen's a lifesaver. Keeps the back end tidy. He's helpful. I let the words float. Helpful? How? He handles the messy stuff, he admitted. Taxes, audits, that kind of thing. He helps with taxes. I said slowly. The world tilted. Yeah, he smiled like it was nothing. Guys, brilliant. I started keeping a small notebook in my purse. Names, dates, odd phrases. I learned to watch his pockets when he checked his messages. I learned to notice the way he briefly left rooms to take calls. The garage, mostly, where the car muffled voices and the tools provided a believable soundscape. You okay? Rena asked one afternoon when I spilled coffee on my shirt and laughed like I always did. I'm fine. I didn't want to pull her into this storm, but she was the only one I trusted at work. You don't look fine. She sat opposite me on the bench outside. Talk to me. Do you ever feel like you know the shape of a person, and then you see a shadow that doesn't belong? I kept my voice low. Like finding a door in your house you never noticed. Rena blinked. You talking about relationships or houses? Both. My laugh was brittle. I found something. A photo. I think he's lying. Oh, she went quiet, then reached across the bench and took my hand. Show me. I showed her the picture on my phone. She studied it the way a mechanic might study a car part. Patient and looking for wear. Is that him? She asked. It's him. I swallowed. With other people. A woman? 2 kids. Rena's face shut down like a window. Do you think he? I don't know yet. I lied by omission. I'm watching. Okay. She nodded. If you want, I can help look into receipts. I mean, not snoop, but I understand spreadsheets. You would. I felt a weight lift. I don't want to drag you into I'm already in, she said bluntly. You're my friend. And if he's lying, you're not doing this alone. Hours later, at home, I confronted small inconsistencies that finally stopped feeling small. Did you meet someone at St. Clair's Hospital this week? I asked casually, folding towels. St. Clair's. He looked up too fast, like he'd been caught. No, why would I? You said you were at the Thompson office. That's downtown. St. Clair's is north. Different direction. It wasn't St. Clair's. Tried to smooth it. I went to a clinic, but for what? I set a towel down slowly. A checkup. Visiting someone. None of your business, he snapped, then immediately regretted it. Look, it was nothing. Just a quick stop. Stop where? I pressed. He ran a hand through his hair. You don't need to know. I started getting braver. I called the bank one night, used the password only he and I knew, and asked about a transfer. The woman on the line read me cold numbers and dates. Offshore. Unusual. I kept my voice steady. The way you keep it steady when stepping on broken glass? You can't call the bank like that, Daniel said when he saw me at the kitchen table. It's weird. It wasn't weird to me. I kept my eyes on him. Why is a payment listed as consulting going to an account in another state? He froze. I don't know. Probably a vendor. A vendor. I laughed then, a short, sharp sound. You don't use vendors for tax credits. He shoved his chair back. Stop. Do you think I'm stupid? I didn't mean to say it, but the words came out hot. Do you think I can't see your credit card charges at odd hours? The gas, the hotels, the dinners you don't remember? I said stop, he hissed. You're making something out of nothing. Is that what you keep telling yourself? I stepped closer. Is that what you'll tell everyone when someone asks why Owen met you in a cafe at 3 in the morning? Owen met me at 3 in the morning. He sounded surprised, which was the worst part. You said he needed help clearing papers. I watched his face for the way it rearranged itself to fit his story. You said papers like it's harmless. He looked away. He was shorter than his lies wanted him to be. I started saving screenshots. I learned to screenshot his emails when he left his laptop open. I documented text messages I thought might matter. I bought a small voice recorder and left it plugged into the hallway lamp. Small things that looked like nothing but added up into proof. You're acting like a detective, Rena said when I showed her my little folder. I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with, I told her. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize. If I'm right, I need a plan. And if you're right? She asked. Then I'm not going to be the woman who cries on the kitchen floor. My jaw tightened. I'm going to be the one who holds the map. One evening, after he'd been out longer than normal, I left the recorder running and poured myself a glass of wine to slow the ringing in my ears. The house settled. The car door clicked. He came in and flung his jacket on the chair. You okay? He asked, brushing his hand along the banister like he owned the whole staircase. Where were you? I kept my voice even. Out? He leaned against the wall. Ran into Owen, sorted some stuff. Sorted what? Taxes, clients, a secret life. I asked, sharper than I meant. He laughed, a short bark that didn't reach his eyes. You're paranoid. Seriously? Paranoid about what? I walked closer. About you lying for 30 years and me being the last to find out? He flinched like I'd hit him. That's cruel. Maybe? I breathed out. But say it's not cruel. Say it's the only way I can get answers. He looked at me then, really looked, and for a second I saw him unarmored. I don't want you poking around. Too late. I held up my phone. I already am. He left the room. The front door clicked later. I opened my notebook and wrote the last line for the night. Owen Cafe at 3 a.m. St. Clair's mention, receipt at 2:14 a.m. Daniel claims work. I closed the book and listened to the house breath. I wasn't scared anymore. I was methodical. I was a quiet engine gathering speed. Then, one night, he slipped. You know that hospital by the river? He said from the doorway, casual. St. Clair's, I had to drop by there last month. St. Clair's. I felt my pen stop midair. You said you never go up that way. Oh, he shrugged, like it was nothing. I had to see someone. Old contact. I stared at him. I knew exactly who worked at that hospital. The coffee shop smelled like burnt beans and sugar. I was early. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The picture kept replaying in my head the way he smiled, the way that woman stood close like she belonged. You, Mara? She asked, voice soft as a napkin. Yes, I stood. She looked smaller in person, tired, like someone who worked nights and slept in stolen hours. Her hair was pulled back. She had the kind of hands that showed work. A faint scar on one finger, short nails. She looked nothing like the villain I'd imagined. Thank you for meeting me. My voice came out too loud. She jumped a little, then smiled, the sort of uneasy smile you give a stranger who's suddenly not a stranger. You too. She sat down slowly. You're Daniel's wife, right? Yes. The word felt heavy. I'm Mara, Elise. She held out a hand, then pulled it back like touching would make this real. I work at St. Clair's. I'm a nurse. I thought I stopped. I had rehearsed 100 ways to start. None of them fit. You thought I'd be loud? Elise finished, and her laugh was a tired thing. Or angry. I get that a lot. She swallowed. When I opened your message, I felt sick. How long? I asked before I could stop myself. How long have you known him? She looked down at her coffee. 30 years on and off. Since before you married him. Her voice was flat, not bitter. Just small, as if saying the number could break her. For 30 years. The table tilted under me. I put my hand on it to steady myself. Elise, why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know you existed. She met my eyes then, and there was a raw truth there. He said he was single. He said he traveled for business. I believed him. I thought I was building a life on the pieces he offered. You believed him. The words felt like accusation, but it landed on both of us. I remembered the way Daniel said he had no time for family drama, the way he used work as armor. He said he was a single dad, Elise said. A single dad who needed help. He told me he had 2 kids and that he was doing his best. I helped. I celebrated birthdays. I drove to fundraisers. I thought I was the backup. Her voice tightened. I don't know when I stopped being cautious. You celebrated birthdays, I repeated slowly. Which birthdays? Elijah's first steps. His 8th grade recital. Mia's 16th birthday. She named them without looking at me, names that felt like knives. Mia. The name snapped into focus. I felt something cold move in my stomach. He never mentioned children. He never mentioned anything that would make me question him. Elisa's eyes filled, but she blinked them away. He was careful. He had stories. He had reasons. And when I asked, he said the kids were his past, that he handled it alone. Did they know about me? I asked. She shook her head. No, they thought he was a single dad too. He told them their mother left. He told them he traveled a lot for work. He kept everything so small. She laughed a tiny laugh, like a magician who only does close-up tricks. What changed? I asked. If he kept everything small, why is it out now? Elise looked at me like she had rehearsed this answer too. He made a mistake, she said quietly. He got sloppy. He started taking calls in public. He left messages. Once he left a calendar on the kitchen counter with someone else's initials. Once I found hotel receipts in his coat. I asked. He said vendor. He said client. I wanted to believe him. I needed to, until the day Lucas she stopped, throat tight. The name Lucas landed in the air like a weight. Lucas, I repeated. Who's Lucas? My son. She said it like it was obvious, and then like it was impossible. He's 29. He's stubborn. He always suspected his father left for work a lot, then came home with gifts. He started asking questions when he was a teenager. He wanted to meet him. Daniel said no. He said it would complicate things. You asked? You never. I felt ridiculous. I had 100 questions and none of them cared for timing. I asked him, Elise said. I asked Daniel a dozen times. He smoothed it over. He said he was protecting us. He lied to protect himself. She put her hands on the table, fingers pressed together like she was holding the pieces of something fragile. You have pictures, I said, because the photo on my phone had felt like proof and I needed more. I needed names, timelines, proof that this wasn't a dream. She reached into her bag and pulled out a worn envelope. Inside were photos, older ones curling at the edges. Daniel at a community fair. Daniel pushing a stroller. Daniel blowing out candles at a small kitchen table with a child on his lap. There were sticky notes, a hospital bracelet with a date, a napkin with a scribbled name. My kids thought he was their dad, Elise said. He was their dad in all the ways that count and none of the ways that matter. He never signed school forms. He never came to parent-teacher nights. He'd be there for the big stuff and gone for the small, and that was the pattern. I stared at a photo of Daniel with a toddler on his shoulders. He looked like a different man, warm, present. The picture cut me open. Why would he do that? I said, why keep it secret? Because he could, Elise said simply, and because hiding felt like power to him. She paused. But power has a cost. I paid some of it, probably more than I realized. She laughed, a dry sound, and I think her eyes darted. I think he lied to everyone, including himself. He lied to me, I said. The sentence landed like an accusation I'd been waiting to say for 12 years. 4:30, Elise corrected. Her voice was small, not mean. Just the truth. We looked at each other. And for the first time the room felt less like two strangers and more like two people holding the same broken map. What do you want, Elise? I asked. Do you want him to leave? To apologize? To pick one life and live it. All of that would be nice, she said. But I want answers. My kids want answers. I want to know where the promises go when he says them. She tapped the photos. And I want someone to know the truth in case he tries to smooth it over again. I don't want to be dramatic, I said. But I don't want to be gaslit either. I felt a cold edge in my chest, a plan forming. I won't let him rewrite this. Elise's eyes softened. When I saw your message, I thought I'd explode. Then I thought, maybe we can do something together. Maybe we shouldn't be enemies. Not enemies. I met her directly. Not allies yet. Partners? Maybe. We put the pieces together. We get names, dates, anything that ties the photo to a pattern. She nodded. I have notes, birthdays, cards, receipts, a few emails he left open on my laptop once. Her voice was steadier now. I'll bring everything. I'll tell my kids. Maybe they'll talk. You think they will? I asked. They hate him for different reasons, Elise said. Lucas is quiet, but he's the one who keeps records. Mia, she hesitated, a shadow crossing her face. Mia is still furious. She thinks she was abandoned. Do they know about you? Asked. No, Elise's hand tightened on the photos. They only know him as the dad who turned up sometimes. If they find out he had another life, it'll blow their world. Then we need to be careful. My voice was low, the way it is when plans form. We need statements, dates, proof. If we rush, he'll know. If we wait, he might cover things. He always covered things. Elise's laugh was bitter. I'm tired of being surprised. Me too. I slid one of the photos back into the envelope. We'll do this quiet. We'll build the case. Elise looked at me, and for the first time I saw something fierce behind the exhaustion. Thank you, she said. I don't know how to do this alone. You don't have to. I felt something settle in my chest, a cold certainty. We start small, names, dates, anything that can't be rewritten. She pushed the envelope toward me. Her fingers trembled slightly. There's one more thing, she said. What? I have 2 kids with him. The sentence hit like a hand across the mouth. I stared at her. She stared back, waiting, as if the next words were a cliff edge. Elise reveals she has 2 children with him, and they've wanted answers for years. The cafe smelled like boiled coffee and lemon cleaner. I sat at a small table near the window, fingers curled around my phone like a lifeline. I told myself this was the right thing to do. I told myself calm things. Then they arrived. You, Mara. The first voice said. It was low, careful. Yes. I stood before I could think. The man who stepped forward had my husband's jaw and my mother's nervous laugh wrapped into one quiet package. He smiled once, small. Lucas, you look like him. I tried to keep my voice even and failed. You look like Daniel. He gets that a lot. He sat down slowly, eyes scanning me like facts he was sorting. You okay? No. I laughed, too sharp. Not really. The girl who followed was all a jizz-sharp chin, arms crossed, hair half done. She didn't smile. She slammed her bag onto the chair and glared like someone who'd been handed the wrong script. You must be MIA, I said, because saying their names made them real. You don't have to be sweet about it, she snapped. I already know who you are. I didn't come to fight, I said quickly. I swallowed, to hear from you. Mia's laugh was brittle. From him. He's not here. Lucas spread his hands. He didn't know we were meeting. Of course he didn't. Mia leaned forward. He never does. I set my phone face down and reached for the folder Elise had given me. Photos, receipts, scribbled notes, evidence, small and messy. Elise sent me these. I said, she wanted us to talk. She did. Lucas's face softened for a second. She's the one who kept everything together. She thought we could. I stopped. Words fell short. She thought we could compare notes. Mia snorted. Notes. Great. Like a group project from hell. You think this is funny? I felt my cheeks burn. Do you know what it's like to see him with a family you didn't know existed? He looked happy in that picture, Lucas said quietly. Like a man who chose something. That's the worst part. He lied to us, Mia said. He lied to me my whole life. Said he had to leave for work. Said Mom left. Said it was just us. Then he came back with excuses and gadgets and this big nothing. Did he ever say why? I asked. He said it was complicated. Lucas's voice was steady, the kind that files facts. When I was a kid, he'd disappear for a week. Sometimes two. Promised it was work. Promised to bring back games. Promised to show up for things and didn't. I figured he was protecting me. As I got older, the gaps got worse. He promised a real family, Mia spat, pulling her phone out and opening a thread. Look, she slid the screen toward me. Old text with Daniel's name. He said one day we'll have a real family. I promise. He wrote that when I was 14. I read the messages. The words were small, ordinary. The betrayal felt enormous. Why would he say that? Asked. Why would he? Because he needed us to believe him, Lucas said. Because it was easier than explaining the mess. He used you, Mia said suddenly, eyes sharp. I found an old email where he asked me to deliver something to an address. Said it was for the firm. I was 19. I thought I was helping Dad. You delivered it. I asked. I did. Mia's jaw worked. Turned out to be some documents for a shell company. He said it was paperwork. When I asked, he said I was being dramatic. Lucas reached into his jacket and pulled out a thin envelope. I kept receipts, he said. Hotel names, dates, a few invoices he didn't clean up. He set them on the table like a peace offering. The paper felt heavy. You used me, Lucas said quietly. He used my name at the company when he wanted something handled discreetly. I thought it was a favor. It was dirty. You were a kid, I said, but I didn't know if I meant it to him or to myself. He made us. Useful, Mia said. When it was convenient, we were family. When it wasn't, we were invisible. He did that with me too, I said. Years, excuses, business, this client emergency that. I found receipts for travel, he said was work. They were nowhere near his clients. Do you have anything else? Lucas asked. Records, dates. I have what Elise gave me, I said. Photos, little notes, a hospital bracelet. I've started keeping receipts. I've been tracking him. You what? Mia barked. You're tracking him. I had to, I said. I saw a photo. I needed to know if it was real or an accident. It was real. Lucas leaned back, folding his arms. So we compare. We make a timeline. Mia scoffed. A timeline. Like this will fix anything. It might, I said. It'll at least make him stop lying by omission. Stop lying. Mia rolled her eyes. He lied because he could get away with it. You think timelines terrify him? He's good at making things disappear. He's sloppy, Lucas said. He's not as careful as he thinks. He used me once for a favor that left a paper trail. I never told anyone because I didn't want trouble. But those papers are still somewhere. Where? I asked. In a file at an old office he rented years ago, Lucas said. I went through boxes when I moved a year ago. Some things were mixed. I took copies. You kept copies? My voice rose. Why would you keep them? Because I'm cautious, Lucas said. Because something didn't sit right. He rubbed his temple. I'm not a fighter, Mara. I'm quiet. But I keep files. Mia stared at him, surprised. You're actually useful. Shut up. Lucas smiled, a ghost of humor. We don't have to be enemies here. She's in, Elise said. Lucas has copies. Miyushi's angry but willing. Do you think? We'll be methodical, I told her. Quiet now. Strong later. Okay. Elise took a breath. I'll start writing dates. That's it. I smiled, though it felt small. We're building a map. I looked up at the sky, evening settling. The plan felt fragile and real at once. Sori looks up from her laptop and says, if this goes public, he won't just lose money. He'll lose everything. The house felt normal on the outside. He hummed in the shower. The kettle clicked. I set a place at the table like everything was ordinary. Inside, I was moving like a ghost. Morning. He popped his head out from the towel, still damp, smiling that practiced smile. Morning. I smiled back. Big day for you. Nothing crazy. A couple calls, then lunch with Owen. He brushed his hair. You, work stuff? Same old. I kept my voice light, like I always had. You look good, he said, and it was the sort of compliment meant to deflect, not connect. Thanks. I reached for my phone, checking the list of transfers. I'd set the first triggers last night. Small legal moves, so nothing tripped alarms. It was tedious and steady and felt like building a small furnace. You okay? He asked, pausing in the doorway. Fine. I met his eyes and let a tiny laugh fall out. Really fine? He shrugged and left. The door shut and I exhaled. I moved through the day with a calm that felt rehearsed. I answered emails. I laughed at the stupid things he said. I didn't pry. I was careful like a surgeon. Do you want coffee? Rena asked when she stopped by with a file. Yes, please. I handed her a mug. Thank you. You look serious. She sat on the counter. This week has been odd, just focused. I showed her a note, dates, transfers, accounts. She read without flinching. You're brave, she said quietly. Or reckless. Maybe both. I tapped a pencil on the page. I need someone who understands spreadsheets and can keep a secret. You already dragged me in. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'll help. Thank you. The word felt small and heavy. Later that week, I sat across from Adrian Holt in his office. He had one of those faces made for a courtroom, calm, severe, practiced. He placed a blank folder between us and didn't speak for a long breath. You've done your homework, he said finally. You didn't come in angry, which is useful. Anger clouds judgment. I want clean, I answered. I want legal. I want protection. That's wise. He tapped a pen. We'll draft papers. Custody affidavits if needed. Asset distribution. But you don't file until you have leverage. Leverage. The word was a tool I'd learned to use. I had receipts, timelines, Sori's preliminary audit. I had Elise's notes. I had Lucas and Mia's willingness. I had a plan. You understand the risks? Adrian asked. I do. I heard my voice steady. I also understand the cost of silence. He nodded. We time this? One date, one strike. You think he'll see it coming? I asked. He's arrogant, he said. Arrogant men rarely watch the clocks of those they underestimate. He slid a calendar toward me. Pick a date. I picked a date the way you pick a faint star and tell yourself it will stick. My birthday. A day he always used for grand gestures, for public displays, for taking credit. It fit the plan like a lock. At home, he kept being himself loud, charming, oblivious. He complimented my hair. He complained about traffic. He bragged about a client. I let him. My face was a mask. Inside, I was all numbers and signatures and quiet moves. You're quiet tonight, he said one evening, pouring wine. Just tired. I accepted the glass. You look tired too. Business is a pain. He drained his glass. I'm thinking of taking on a new partner. Owen? I asked. Maybe. He grinned. He's got connections. He's helpful, I said slowly. You trust him? Of course. He leaned back. Trusted people make life easy. I nodded. Trust, the word tangled. I started scheduling the freezes one small alert at a time so no single action screamed fraud. It felt like tilting dominoes, subtle and precise. I notarized Elise's statements. I arranged for Lucas and Mia to sign a sworn timeline if they agreed. I printed copies of Suri's findings and tucked them into the folder Adrian had prepared. I requested certified copies of bank statements under quiet pretexts. I arranged for emergency freezes that would trigger under specific conditions. I moved money into accounts with legal counsel watching. You ever think about how people think they're invisible? Rena said one afternoon as she handed me a cup. My sister works in HR. She says cheaters always use noise-bragging gifts. Noise covers truth. I noticed, I said. Noise makes you sloppy. You sure you want to do this? She asked. Once it's out, there's no going back. I know. I closed my eyes for a moment. That's part of why it has to be perfect. He kept behaving like a man who had nothing to hide. He left receipts on the table. He joked about a lunch with Owen. He told a story about a charity event he claimed to have attended alone. He went to the garage for long calls. He left his laptop open. I learned to look at his small, complacent errors like runway lights guiding a plane. I tracked them. "You seem different," he told me one night. Voice soft, as if testing. "I'm more focused," I said. "I'm planning." "Planning." He laughed. "Planning surprises me." "Good," smiled. I like surprises. He never suspected the legal drafts waiting in a drawer. He never guessed the notarized statements in a bank safe deposit. He didn't know about Suri's spreadsheets mapping patterns of transfers to towns, where she had birthdays with a woman and 2 children. He didn't know Lucas had kept invoices. He didn't know I'd moved a portion of the shared investments into my name under counsel. I was careful with words. I didn't hint. I didn't ask leading questions. I let him feel comfortable, even cherished, because that would make his later collapse more honest. "You're quiet about your birthday this year," he said breezily over breakfast. "Am I doing something wrong?" "No." I reached across the table and touched his hand briefly. "I like simple." Simple. He pretended to be hurt. "When have we ever done simple? Maybe we should try." I kept my voice soft. "Less fuss." He smiled, satisfied, and leaned in to kiss my cheek. The gesture felt like permission to move unseen. I practiced being invisible in public, laughing at brunch with friends, nodding at colleagues, posting a photo on social media that suggested an ordinary life. It felt almost theatrical. I was playing the part of the unknowing wife while quietly tightening the noose with legal knots. "You sure about this?" Adrian asked on the phone one night. "You've got witnesses signed?" "Yes." I counted in my head: Elisa's notarized note, Lucas's copies, Mia's readiness, Suri's early flags, my bank copies. "We're ready. Don't slip." He sounded sudden and gentle. "This is theater and law. Timing is everything." "I know." I liked the way the word sounded when it came out steady. I felt steadier. There were small, fearful moments. A bank alert nearly tripped when I moved funds too quickly. I called Adrian and Rena and Suri in quick succession, and we smoothed the wake. He never noticed. He called it bad banking. I called it a close call. "You've changed," he said one evening, catching me folding towels like nothing had happened. "I've been busy," I said, folding the corner carefully. "For the better," he said, with a small private pride. "You look sharper." "Maybe I am," I said, placing the towels down slowly. I kept my files locked. I kept my phone on battery saver and turned off notifications that could talk. I left breadcrumbs only for myself. I learned to think 3 moves ahead. I started dreaming in calendars and bank statements. The plan had become a quiet pulse beneath every day. It made the world feel thin and sharp and possible. On the night before my birthday, I checked everything twice. My heart tapped against my ribs like a tiny drum. I felt a strange calm, like standing at the top of a hill before a run. "You look peaceful," Daniel said when he kissed my cheek at midnight, thinking it was sweetness. "Just sleeping early," I lied. "Big day tomorrow." He rolled over and breathed out, satisfied. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the steady rhythm of his sleep. I counted the last moves in my head once more. I had set the date, locked the affidavits, arranged the freeze's time to release under specific legal triggers, and placed the final documents into the box that would be given to him. I had chosen my moment. Everything hinged on tomorrow. I finalized everything for a single date, my birthday. He wakes up smiling like he's been practicing for weeks. "Happy birthday." He sings before he's fully awake, and the grin is too bright for 2 in the morning. "You remembered," I say, careful and light. Of course I remembered. He comes into the kitchen like every movement is a present. "I've got something important to tell you later. I want it to be right." "You sound serious." I set a plate down and laugh like it's ordinary. Inside, I feel like a steel cable tightening. "Just wait," he says, and there's that look, the one that says he's prepared to be the hero. He leaves for the day with a hug that smells like aftershave and confidence. I go through my motions. Coffee, a text to Rena that I'm fine, a smile to the neighbor. I fold the napkins for later, pick the flowers that don't scream obsessive, and place the box where it will be easy for him to find. He seems happy, Rena says when she drops by with a card. You two are adorable. We're fine, I say. I breathe slow and even. The word fine tastes like a promise. He's doing something big then. She asks, peeking at the box. Maybe, I say. Maybe he thinks he's telling the truth. You okay? She studies me. You look ready? Ready's a good word. I hold the box like it's a paperweight and smile. He comes home early. He smells like cologne and a restaurant. He's carrying 2 bouquets and a nervous grin. You kept me in suspense, he says, almost proud. I like surprises, I reply, but not the fake kind. I set the napkins into place as if setting a stage. He walks into the living room and pauses because he said he had something important. He clears his throat, smoothing the fabric of his jacket like he's adjusting armor. I need to tell you something, he begins. I've been unfair. I've been hiding things, and his voice cracks a little, which is what he wanted. You've finally decided to be honest. I ask, soft. Yes, he swallows. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of secrets. He opens the door wider and steps back like he's about to reveal a magic trick. Elise walks in first, then Lucas, then Mia. Elise looks shocked, carrying a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Lucas keeps his hands in his pockets. Mia glares like a storm that's ready to hit. Oh, my breath catches, but my face stays calm. You brought company. I thought he falters. I thought it was time we all knew. You thought, and let the word hang there like a mirror. You thought the right time would be your choice. Elise looks at me, confusion flaring, then shame. Mara, she says, voice small. I didn't know, you didn't know. Mia snaps bitter. He didn't tell you either. That's rich. He said he was a single dad, Elise tells her. I thought I was the one he could be honest with. He lied to all of us. Mia spits. He lied about birthdays, about being at work. He lied to my face. He lied to me too, I say, quietly now, for years. Daniel tries to step forward, hands open, like he wants to gather up the fragments, like confetti. I wanted to tell you myself, he says. I wanted to explain. I thought today was the day. Explain what? Lucas asks, voice even. Why you kept us apart. Why you missed soccer games and parent-teacher nights. He doesn't yell. The calm is sharper. I thought it was for the best. Daniel's fingers fiddle with the cuff of his sleeve. I thought splitting things kept us safer. Safer. Elise repeats, like she's tasting an awful joke. Safer for who? Both, he says, fumbling. I did things to protect everyone. You protected yourself, Mia says. That's all you ever protected. I watch him shrink under their faces. He's used to applause, not accusation. He's used to control, not conversation where he answers to people he ignored. Why now? I ask. Why bring them here on my birthday? He looks at me, pleading. I wanted to be honest in front of you. You wanted a stage I'd finish for him? You wanted to be the one who ended it on your terms. He flushes. That's not fair. Nothing about this was ever fair, Elise says quietly. He had a whole life I thought I could trust. You think I chose to do this? Daniel says, voice breaking. I'm trying to make it right. Making it right looks a lot like cleanup to me, Lucas says. Promises don't erase years. You always had an excuse, Mia says. Work, clients, the kids needed me. You weren't needed. You chose. He opens his mouth, then closes it, the way someone sees an accusation and can't find the right lie to hold. I called him here because he stops and searches the room for sympathy. There is none to be found. You want us to clap? Elise asks, and there is a small, bitter humor in her voice. Do you want us to thank you for making the reveal? No, Daniel whispers. I just thought that you could control this, I say. My voice is calm, but cold. That you could choose our psychodrama. I step forward and pick up the box. It's wrapped in simple paper, tied with a ribbon. He looked surprised, like he didn't expect me to be the one to hand him anything today. You really thought you could tell us and it would fix everything? Mia asks. We're not children, Lucas says. You putting us on the spot won't make your choices okay. I wanted to be the one to face you, Daniel says, lower now. I wanted it to be clean, clean. Elise laughs softly. You don't know that word? Daniel, I hold the box in my hands and feel the weight of it. It's heavier than it looks, like a promise folded into paper. Thank you for being honest. His eyes find mine for a fraction of a second. He looks like a man who has lost a script he thought he owned. You could have told me before the photo, I say. You could have told me any time in 12 years. I was protecting you, he says, reflexive. I thought I was doing the right thing. Protecting me from what? Elise asks. From scandal, he says. From having to pick. I thought I could handle both. You handled both badly, Mia says. We were collateral. He swallows so hard his Adam's apple moves. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't open accounts, I say. It doesn't fix tax filings. It doesn't answer questions to a company you represent. I'll fix it, he says, desperate. I'll fix it all. I'll tell them. All you'll what? Lucas asks. Go to work and keep being the respectable man who kept 2 lives. His voice is sharper now, like iron meeting glass. You could have talked to us, Elise says. You could have let us know. We would have what? Mia cuts in. Been grateful for crumbs. We deserve truth. He looks at me again, searching for my collapse, for a tear, for the woman who would beg him not to leave. I don't give him that. You wanted to control how this ends, I say? That ends now. His breath hitches. Mara, please. No, I bring the box closer to him and its presence in my hands is steadying. You had secret birthdays, secret hospital visits, secret accounts. You decided who learned what. You think you can pick the time to be honest? No. He opens his mouth like he will argue, then shuts it. The phone at the end of the room buzzes Elise's kids, guessing the wrong number. A reminder that the world keeps moving even when ours stops. The light from the window cuts across the carpet in a sharp line. I wanted to tell you in person, he says again, quieter. You did, I say. Just not in the way you hoped. He steps forward slowly and the room smells like cologne and fear. He reaches for the box as if it were a fragile thing. Careful, Elise says, voice soft but fierce. What's in that box? Your turn, I say, and the words are calm like a judge's gavel. He freezes, hand hovering. For the first time since I met him, he looks truly unsure of what to say. The ribbon catches in his fingers, and for a second the house holds its breath. I hand him the beautifully wrapped box. Your turn. He rips the ribbon like a man who thinks gifts explain everything. Open it, he says, too eager. Go on, Mara. Make it dramatic. Happy birthday, I say, and my tone is even. You always like dramatic? He lifts the lid. Paper, envelopes. A stack of printed emails. He fishes out the first thing, a divorce packet with my signature already on one of the copies. What is this? He asks, voice small. You wanted honesty, I say. So here it is. I watch him scan the top page. He frowns at the legal language, the dates, the clean stamp. This, you can't file that. He swallows. You can't just, I can. I fold my hands over the box. I can and I will if I have to. But this is your moment, not mine. He flips through more paper bank statements, highlighted transfers, screenshots of messages. His face changes like someone turning a map to a new direction and seeing a cliff. These are receipts, he stammers. They could be mistakes. Mistakes are patterns when they repeat, I say. Look here. I point to a series of transfers tied to travel dates that match family photos Elise gave me. You were in 2 places at once, Daniel. He makes a face like he's trying to joke. I travel a lot. Papers get messy. You called them consulting every quarter, Lucas says, voice low. That's not consulting. That's a transfer into shell accounts. That's absurd. Daniel slaps the table lightly. Like force will change numbers. You don't know what you're talking about. She does, Elise says softly, and there's no softness in it. She's got Surrey on it. She dug? She found things you thought were buried. She's a nurse, he says, incredulous. What does she know about? She knows the dates of our kids' surgeries. Mia cuts in. She knows what's stamped at the hospital when you were there. She knows what you told her. She knows you were there for birthdays. You told us you missed. His mouth opens, closes. Those are private matters. Private lies, I say. You made them private on purpose. He pulls a folded letter from the box. The company letterhead looks official. He reads it, and for the first time his voice loses its usual edge. What's this? He asks. An investigation. Yes, I let the words sit in the air. A preliminary inquiry. Someone from your firm flagged anomalies. I gave them a timeline. They started asking questions. He laughs. A brittle, small sound. You can't. Who gave them that? People who have been waiting for answers, Lucas says. Like us. Like me, Elise says. I signed statements. I showed them receipts. I told them dates he said he was on business. He's lying, Daniel gasps. You're lying. We're not, Mia says sharply. We have messages. You promised me a family. You promised me things that never happened. You think promises make up for everything? He asks, helpless now. I did what I had to do. What you had to do was live a lie, I say. You chose the lie because it benefited you? He looks at me, desperation finally cracking the surface. I loved you. I love you. Love doesn't come with invisible contracts, I say. It doesn't get divided into halves and kept in different wallets. He fumbles and pulls out a printout of texts, his messages to Elise. Gentle, tender, protective. He stares at the screen as if he's seeing the words perform a kind of betrayal on him. See? He pleads. They meant something. I was trying to do right by both. Doing right doesn't mean stealing lives, Lucas says. You put us in drawers until you needed us. You'd have preferred I tell you and bring you into the mess. Elise asks. You'd have preferred honesty that meant facing the consequences with us. You never once asked. He shakes his head. I thought I was protecting everyone. Protecting yourself? Mia spits. That's it. He runs a hand over his face like he can wipe away proof. You can't throw all this at me. It's not fair. Fair? I repeat. Fair is a word you used when you wanted benefits and not responsibility. He looks around the room like he's checking for cameras, then holds up the small silver key I left on top of the stack. His hand trembles. What is that for? He whispers. That opens a locker, I say quietly. At the Greylock storage facility, locker 43B. I watch him try to keep his face steady. Inside are copies of everything you tried to hide. Documents, hard drives, statements, invoices, and a folder labeled Work Offshore. It's notarized and time-stamped. It's ready. He laughs, but it sounds like a cough. You can't. I can. I lean forward. I assembled this because you thought I was blind. You thought I wouldn't learn the math of your life. You thought I wouldn't notice the pattern. He drops into a chair, the air leaving him. Please, Mara, don't do this. Do what? I ask. Tell the truth. Hold you accountable? Make it public. He looks at me like the world has turned. Think about the kids. Think about careers. Think about. I have. I say. I thought about the kids. They're here. He turns to them, searching for mercy in their faces. Elise, please. Lucas, Mia. I never meant you meant to keep us apart, Lucas says. You meant to have your cake and eat it. It won't be just me who loses his job, he says, frantic now. You think I don't worry about them? My clients. My reputation. Maybe you should have worried about their lives first, Elise replies. Maybe you should have worried about the kids who grew up thinking they were alone. I did what I thought was best, he says again, and the sentence has lost any power it had once held. My lawyer says if you sign the papers quietly, we delay handing over the key. I say, if you sign, we walk through this civilly. If you don't, those files go to the authorities tonight. He looks at me as if I'm a stranger who brought a storm. You're blackmailing me. No, I say the word like a scalpel. I'm offering a choice. He laughs, a sound that has no humor. You think you can ruin my life? Take everything. You already tried to take pieces of other people's lives, Mia says softly. This is the fallout. His mouth opens, searching for manipulation. He starts to plead, blame, charm old tactics that once won him rooms, contracts, favors. Think about the kids, he says again. Think about the shame. I have. I say, we all have. He pins his eyes on me, and for the first time he looks tiny like someone who misjudged the weight of a ledge. He reaches for my hand, but I pull away. You don't understand what you've done, he whispers. I understand it better than you do, I say. You didn't see me coming because you never expected me to plan. You thought I'd be the woman who sobbed in a corner. I'm not that woman. Elise, Lucas, he turns to them, helpless. He doesn't get to ask you, Lucas says. You get to decide what you want. Not him. He can sign the papers, Elise says. If he signs, we keep this quiet, at least for now. He could also choose to fight, Mia adds. To try and keep everything and control the narrative. He looks at me again, searching for mercy in a place he never planted it. What's the key for? He says finally, voice broken. I pick up the silver key and hold it out just enough for him to see the shine. It opens the locker, I say, and inside are everything the police and the tax people need. Daniel whispers, What's the key for? And I tell him exactly what it unlocks. He stands at the doorway, paper in his hand like a man waiting for a verdict. You want me to sign? He asks. Voice small, pleading. Yes. I fold my napkin slowly. Sign quietly. And we handle this civilly. You'll hold the key. He can't look me in the eye. If you sign, we don't hand it to anyone tonight. My fingers rest on the table. You sign, we delay everything. We go through lawyers. He laughs like it's a joke. You think you can sign, Lucas says, calm. Or we hand everything over. That's the choice. He's trying to bargain. Mia snaps. He always thinks a word will fix it. I'm not bargaining, I say. I'm offering a way to limit damage. For everyone. For everyone. Elise's voice is flat. Do you mean for him? Or for you? For everyone. I meet her eyes. For the kids. For the truth. For as little spectacle as possible. He stares at the papers like they're foreign language. You should. This is blackmail. No, I push the pen toward him. It's accountability. He signs with a shaking hand. The pen makes a sound like a tiny failure. There. He exhales. There. Are you happy? Not happy. I stand slowly. But this is the start. He folds the paper and tucks it away like it's armor. Lucas, he says suddenly, voice urgent. Will you? Please consider. We already decided, Lucas replies. We file today. What today? He looks like he's been pushed off a cliff. Yes, Lucas is steady. We're done waiting. You can't. He rises, desperate. Think about our jobs. Think about the firm. Think about what you thought we were. Mia says. That's the point. He chokes on something between a sob and a laugh. You're all so cruel. No, Elise steps forward, quieter than the others. We're the people you hid. We deserve to be heard. He looks at each of us as if searching for mercy. There's none left to find. Fine, he says finally. File. But no, if you make this public, I'll fight. You can fight, I say. But you're outnumbered by your own paper trail. He slams the door on his way out. The sound echoes down the hall like a punctuation mark. I breathe. It's shallow at first, then deeper. There's a small, stubborn relief under the skin. Are you okay? Rena asks from the kitchen doorway. She's been quiet, hands clenched. I am, I say, and the word is honest in a way it hasn't been for years. You did it, she says. You actually did it. We did it, Lucas corrects. He folds his arms, tired. We did what we had to do. We'll go to the courthouse, Mia says. I'm ready. I'll sign an affidavit. Elise adds. I'll tell the dates, the receipts, everything. You're sure? I ask because a part of me still clings to ordinary kindness. We've been sure for years, she says. We just needed someone to push. I walk to the window and watch him leave the driveway. He walks like a man carrying an invisible weight. For the first time, I don't want to run after him. I don't want to explain. I just want the air to be true. The next morning, the office lights are on early. Investigators, Adrian says on the phone. They're at his firm. What? My voice skips. They arrived with subpoenas, he says. They didn't waste time. Did they take anything? They took files, backups, hard drives. They asked for access to his accounts. The firm is cooperating, at least publicly. They suspended him pending investigation. My stomach drops and lifts at once. It's almost clinical watching consequences move like machinery. He's suspended. Lucas repeats, disbelief raw. Suspended, Adrian confirms. They're interviewing staff. They want transaction histories. They want dates tied to travel. They already have dates, Sori had said last week, and her words hum now like an aftershock. He can fight. Daniel's voice over the phone had been pleading earlier. But now it's different than used. They'll listen to me. They'll listen to the evidence too, Adrian says. And right now, the evidence is solid. Days blur into procedural motions, lawyers calling, emails flagged urgent. Bank notices sliding into my secure folder like small, inevitable things. The firm issues a terse statement about cooperation. Clients shuffle in silence. Social calendars whisper. Reputation, that quiet currency, begins to leak. He's on suspension, Mia says, scrolling through an article on her phone. They named him in the investigation. He'll lose clients, Lucas says, and there's no joy in it. Only the gravity of cause and effect. I don't feel triumphant. I tell them. I feel tired and strangely light. You deserve to breathe, Elise says, gentle. I don't want his life ruined, Rena murmurs. But truth matters. Truth can be messy, I say, and mean it. But it's cleaner than pretending. On the third day, the bank freezes several accounts. Notices arrive in plain envelopes. I open with hands that barely tremble. Transfers halt. Investments locked down. The noises of his life credit cards, client payments stall, and stutter. He can't access funds, Adrian reports. Until he complies or the investigation finishes. He thought he was untouchable, Lucas says. He didn't plan for being accountable. He planned for everything. Mia counters. He thought he planned for me, for you, for Elise, but he didn't plan for all of us talking at once. We sit around the kitchen table like conspirators who became witnesses. The coffee grows cold. The sun moves in a small, indifferent arc across the ceiling. How are you holding up? Elise asks me quietly. I breathe, I say. And I collect the next steps. You did the right thing, she says, and in that sentence there is no revenge. Only company. When the firm announces his suspension publicly, a small shock runs through our neighborhood. People whisper. Neighbors glance. Work colleagues avoid eye contact. I don't gloat. I don't throw a party. I cook myself a small dinner and set one plate at the table. I light a single candle because birthdays still deserve soft light. You want company? Rena asks, but I shake my head. I need quiet, I say. Just tonight. She squeezes my hand and leaves. I sit and pick at the food, tasting normal in a new way. There's paperwork to finalize. Statements to file. Calls with lawyers that feel bureaucratic and necessary. But the pressure that had been coiled in my chest loosens a little. At the table, I find a card he left, simple, with clumsy handwriting. I pick it up and read, fingers brushing the ink, and for a moment, the old life flickers. I thought I could manage it, the card reads. I wanted to keep everyone safe. He wanted to protect himself, I think, but I don't say it aloud. I close my eyes and breathe in the smell of dinner and candle wax. Peace settles in, small and careful. There's one more thing left unsaid. A detail folded under other details. A decision I haven't voiced yet because it's not about law or punishment. It's about the shape of what comes after. I lift my fork and stare at the plate as if the motion will teach me what to do next. I sit at my birthday dinner alone, and for once, it feels peaceful. But something is still left to say. You okay? Rena asks the first morning I sleep through without waking at the sound of his car. I am, I say, surprised at how true it feels. Rested, actually. You sound like yourself. She pours coffee like she's handing me permission. That's new. I am myself, I answer, and the words settle like a warm coat. Just a different version. You planning revenge? Lucas says later when he drops by with a box of papers he wants to donate to the archive we're building. No, I laugh, short and honest. I'm planning a life. You sure that's enough? Mia challenges, folding her arms like she still expects a trap. It's more than enough, I say. It's mine. The room is bright with afternoon sun. Elise sits with a notebook, writing dates in careful handwriting. She looks softer than she did months ago. Not broken, just tired and steadier. I signed with a temp agency, she says without looking up. Less night shift. More predictable. That's good, I say. You deserve predictable. I deserve waking up without waiting for a lie, she replies. I deserve coffee that isn't filtered through his stories. We all chuckle. This sounds small, but real. We talk about the boring things insurance calls, replacing a car battery, the dentist. Everyday life stitches itself back together in odd, stubborn ways. You ever think about forgiving him? Lucas asks one evening as we sort files. Forgiveness isn't a single act, I say. It's a choice I might make someday, but it won't mean I forget. So what does it mean? Mia asks. She's folding a stack of receipts with an almost ceremonial calm. It means I stop letting him steer my day. I say, it means I set rules for myself. It means I sleep without checking the back door. You sleep now? Rena teases, smiling. Like a normal person, I say, it's weird. We work at slow things. I meet with Adrian to finalize the divorce. He's efficient and unemotional in a way I appreciate now. You handled this with restraint, he says, tapping his pen. That helped your case. I wasn't restrained. I correct. I was deliberate. That's a better word, he admits. Suri calls occasionally with updates about audits. Her voice is brisk, but gentler when she mentions consequences. He's suspended, she says, on one call. The firm puts strict controls in place. Good, I say. People who hide can't keep hiding. And you? She asks. How are you holding up? I breathe, I answer. Then I clear one thing off my list. You planned well, she says. That matters more than most people know. We build small rituals. Sunday walks without checking the phone. A weekly dinner with Rena where wine replaces worry. I start volunteering at a community center Elise recommends. She says it helps, and she's right. Helping other people feels like a muscle I've forgotten how to use. Why do you do it? The coordinator asks on my first night. I want to be part of something honest, I answer. I want to rebuild trust with myself. You're already doing it, she says. You walk in, offer your time. That's trust. I meet people patching their own lives. Their stories are quieter but not lesser. They remind me that healing isn't grand. It's small and stubborn. One afternoon, Lucas sits across from me on the porch, sun on his face. Are you happy? He asks, simple. Happiness is a shape, I say. Right now, it's peace and small wins, and a day I can call mine. That's enough for me, he says. It's enough for Elise too. What about Mia? I ask. She shoots first and thinks later, he says, smiling. But she's healing. She's angry in a better way. Nout, the right person, not at herself. Mia overhears and throws an empty water bottle at his foot. Shut up, she says, and we all laugh. There are practical tasks too. The kids Elise's son and daughter enroll in counseling. They meet with a lawyer to talk about identity and permissions. I sit with them in waiting rooms, offering coffee, offering silence, offering what I can. You did more than I thought you would. Elise tells me quietly once in the car after a session. I did what I had to do, I say. I didn't want them to piece it together without support. You kept them human, she says. That's the real work. Sometimes I find myself walking past the places that once meant something. Daniel's office building. The cafe where he liked to linger. I don't avoid them like a coward. I walk past and feel neutral, like a traveler passing a sign. You look lighter, Rena says when she sees me in the park. I am lighter, I say. Wait, moved. Not taken from me, but moved to the right places. We meet occasionally with Adrian to close loose ends. Paperwork is dull and legal and oddly freeing when stamped. You have a fresh start, he says in his blunt way. You did it by design. I did, I say. Design feels better than luck. People ask how I held on. Friends who heard pieces of the story sometimes look at me like I survived something terrible and can't understand the steps. I made lists, I tell them. I trusted the right people. I didn't let fear decide. Weren't you afraid? One friend asks honest. Yes, I say simply. Fear is a companion. But I used it. I let it sharpen me, not stop me. A quiet moment comes late, months after the boxes and the paperwork and the suspension. I stand in my kitchen and set 2 plates on the table out of habit more than need. You ever think about calling him? Rena wonders aloud once. To say what you feel. No, I say. I already said everything that mattered. You sure? She presses. I'm sure, I say. Saying more would be for him. I don't want to feed him. Good answer. She smiles. Sometimes my mind wanders to small things, what birthdays will look like. Whether I'll ever date again, whether trust will ever feel uncomplicated. I don't rush the answers. I let them arrive like letters. One morning I open my mail and find a small package with nothing inside but a note. Respect, it says, in his messy handwriting. I fold the note and put it in a drawer. It doesn't sting. It doesn't linger. It's paper, a relic. Do you regret anything? Mia asks me once, blunt as always. I regret the time I spent pretending I didn't see, I say. I regret believing he deserved the benefit of the doubt for longer than he earned. You don't regret hurting him. Lucas asks. Hurt was a consequence of truth, I say. I regret the pain in others, but I don't regret waking up. We meet one last time in the house to divide things that can be divided, photos that hold no claim. Tools that belong to both. The dog-eared cookbook I never used. We do it without fury. It feels like unpacking rather than unmaking. Thank you, Elise says, voice quiet as we hand over a box of old holiday cards to be burned or kept, depending on a vote. For what? Ask. For making a choice, she says. For not letting him write our chapters anymore. I breathe the air in and feel the small pulse of my life beating steady. At the end of the day, I stand in the backyard where nothing dramatic ever happened, but everything changed. The sky is clear. The house is quiet. You okay? Rena calls from the kitchen window. Yes, I say. I'm more than okay. He thought breaking me would be easy. But he forgot I don't break. I plan. If this story hit you anger, relief, or something unnameable, please share your thoughts below. What scene felt most real? What you'd have done differently? Any small details or stories you want to add? And if you want more raw, unfiltered true life breakdowns like this, subscribe and hit the bell so we can keep going. Your voice matters more than you realize, and by commenting you help others feel less alone. Drop one sentence, an emoji, or a link to a memory. And if you felt seen, share this with someone who might need it. Your words can change a life today now.